Welcome to Dragonblade Authors Unplugged. I'm so excited. We've got a full house this week. I love it when we have a full house. So we have Eliana Piers, Allison Hanson, Leslie Vollard, and Katherine Lyons with us this week. Ladies, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Love it.
And our very own Catherine Levesque has a book that came out this week. Writing is K.E. Levesque. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that one too, because I was lucky enough to get to read an art copy. I'll talk about that when we get to that point in the recording. But let's start with Eliana's book, which actually came out previously. And it's The Duke Spinster, and it's book 1 in Duke Dare series. Can you tell us about the book and a little bit about the series?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks so much for having me here. It is my first time joining this Unplugged group, and I'm just excited to be here with so many authors that have so many books out with Dragonblade already. This is my first one published with Dragonblade, and yeah, it's part of the Duke Dare series, which has 4 sisters, and they are basically, they know that one of them has a thing for a duke, and so they all dare each other to get a duke, to kind of be in this together and experience it together.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, it's a cute little story about sisters supporting each other. And we start off with Boudica, who is the eldest sister, and of course she has to go first because she has to show all her younger sisters how to do it, right? But the interesting thing about her is she's accepted her spinsterhood. So she doesn't really think she's going to snag a duke. She just goes along with the dare because she wants to kind of show her sisters that, like, it's true, she's a spinster. There is no hope for her. But she's just kind of placating them. She's an introvert. So she's not the type of person to like be super comfortable in a group with a lot of attention. And what ends up happening is, while she's making the dare with her sisters, there's a group of 4 guys and the betting buddies, and they make a bet that Wes can't find love as well as they can find love for him. So while she's got the dare and he's got the
matchmakers.
Yeah, it's kind of matchmaking, right? But it's all fate because they end up bumping into each other in a ball. And Boudica is super practical, pragmatic. She doesn't think she can fall in love. And when she accepts this dance from Wes, she thinks nothing's going to come of it. But then he shows up at her house the next day, of course, like etiquette would kind of mandate that he do. And he thinks it's a shoo-in. Like, he thinks he's just going to show up, hot duke, wealthy, going to get the girl. And she gives him the runaround a few times. So she definitely
as well she should.
Work for it.
Yeah.
But in kind of this meeting, she ends up showing a little bit of her vulnerability and a little secret that she has, which is she fences.
Oh,
so she has this secret talent. Yeah. And he is also a fencer, and he is super competitive with it. So she kind of shows him her moves in more than one way.
I bet she does.
Yeah, things happen. And obviously, in the end, they find love, but it's through a series of sort of mishaps and making him work for it, and him not really understanding why she would be kind of forcing him to do this. And I don't want to give away too much, but I guess near the end, there is a moment where she finds like that her true self is still alive, like that it's not dead, and she has this moment of like, she can be more than she thought she was going to be in life. And so it's a really powerful moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. And then obviously, so going into the series, we follow the 4 sisters and then the 4 betting buddies, and they all end up matching up together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we get 4 books in the series. So we get the buddies and the sisters all together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know they equally match up. That was just, they just worked together, like I started creating the characters and they just matched really well. Wes, I didn't talk about him too much actually. So I should just say that he's super principled and kind of a stoic guy. He's also an introvert, very competitive. He competes, especially with one of the other guys in the group, Sam. And so he is working towards beating Sam in a fencing competition. That's one of his goals in the book. And so when he finds out that Boudica has these skills, and she's studied in a way that he never has because she's a woman, and so she's had to keep it sort of under wraps. He learns some things from her that he can bring into his skill set.
Very cool.
And so that kind of propels them together to work together for a little while.
Very cool.
Do you have a fencing background?
I have fenced one time, and it was awesome.
Was there fencing
Because my
research?
niece is taking it in high school.
Oh, nice.
She's like joined the fencing team and loves it, and it's like it's amazing. So it's coming back.
Yeah.
We knew the touching part seems like just not very like it seems kind of anticlimactic, but you know, I fell over doing the laser tag, so maybe aggressive fencing is not for all of us. So awesome. Well, that sounds like big fun, and I'm glad we get 4 of them. I love it when we have, you know, a group that we get to see the whole way through over and over again. That's you get really attached to characters that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. So the next book that comes out this week is Allison's book, and it's The Lady's Reckless Abandon. This is also book 1. We're like book 1s all over the place this week. It is book 1 in Safely in Scotland. Can you tell us about this one?
Sure, yeah. So the Safely in Scotland series is basically one way or another, all of my heroines end up in Scotland, either to get away from something or go to something or just fleeing. And so that's kind of where the title of the series comes from. The first book, The Lady's Reckless Abandon, it picks up with Lily. She's run off to elope with the man of her dreams, so she thinks. And it picks up where she's waking up in a tavern, and they've anticipated their vows. And as she's getting ready for the wedding, as soon as they get to Scotland, the maid informs her that they're already in Scotland. And as things start to fall into place, she realizes that he's left her there at the tavern. So he's a really bad guy.
Oh no, he didn't.
Yes, he did. So he's ruined her, and he's run off. And so our hero comes. He lives in Scotland, has a castle in Scotland, and he's on his way home. He had a happy family, his parents and his sister, and one by one he's lost them all, and he's very lonely, and he doesn't fit in London with his friends. He's too sad, but he doesn't really want to be alone either. He just doesn't know where he belongs. And so he stops at this tavern where Lily has been sitting out on the stoop all day getting sunburnt while waiting for, she's sure that it's been a mistake and that he'll be back for her and everything. And it's getting late, and she's on the tavern stoop, a tavern full of men who've been drinking all day. And he tries to pretend he doesn't see her or get involved. But then he can't help himself because he is a gentleman and a hero. And so he invites her to come with him to his castle so that she's not sitting on a stoop. And kind of a funny scene at the very beginning is her saying, you know, she can't just run off with a stranger. And he points out that she really doesn't have good sense of men anyway. So how much worse could it be?
He's not wrong.
Oh my goodness. A little bit of a burn, but
yes, but it's true. So you gotta live it. So so he brings her to his castle, and you know, things go from there. And he ends up, you know, asking her to marry him and things like that. So I want to ruin all of the fun parts, but that's how they end up together. She's a damsel in distress, but she ends up saving him because his life is he's so lonely and he doesn't have anyone, and she becomes that person for him. So
is it marriage of convenience? Does he ask her to marry him?
Yes.
Before they fall in love?
Yes. Yep. They become good friends while she's waiting for her family to come get her. She's like right in the middle of I think 6 or 8 kids, and her twin brother is the heir. So she's always kind of been overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's even noticed that she ran off to Scotland.
Oh,
man. Yeah. So he had an awesome family that he lost, and she has a not so great family that doesn't even notice her. So
oh, this is so good. They're both gonna get stuff out of this.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And you did tell us a tiny bit about the series in the beginning. Can you give us just a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the connection is 3 friends that went to school in Scotland. They're all Scottish. So you get the brogue. It is set in Regency time, but you still get that Scottish element to it. And so the second book, The Lady's Great Escape, is one of the friends. And then the third book is The Lady's Sweet Revenge, is the third friend of the male friend. So the women are not connected at all, but the men are all friends. And so you get to see them all through the book.
Oh, cool. Cool.
So, and the second book, The Lady's Great Escape, was fun because she's actually an author. Her name's Theodora Rockledge, and she writes under Theodore Stonecliffe. So it's a twist of the name. So I got to put, our, like how we write and our processes and things with the character. So
oh, fun.
it was fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you include screaming at the blank page? And
I included the thing we all do where we're in sync and we're writing and we have not noticed that it's dark and we didn't eat and we didn't do anything else. So yeah.
I'll shower when the book's done.
Yes. Yeah. And she always has some smudge of ink somewhere on her, and as he's like reading the book, he's like watching to see where the smudge will be that day.
Oh,
Yeah.
so cute.
Sounds like that sounds great. That sounds
Yes.
great. I love the setup, and I love the idea of a Scottish Regency too. So
Yeah.
it's like
Fun.
just a little bit of extra. So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, the next book that comes out this week is our very own Katherine Lyon's book. Writing is K.E. Levesque. It is historical fiction, not historical romance. I was lucky enough to get to read this one ahead of time, and it's delightful. It is it's twisty. It's about Lola Grayson, who is a Hollywood star, and she kind of works her way up in Hollywood, and it's about what she has to give up to be famous and what ends up being taken from her because she's famous. And it's a dual timeline. So you get a writer in contemporary time who bought the house that Grayson was supposed to live in, and then you go back in time and get the story. So you get both. And so there's like a self-discovery story on the part of the contemporary person, and then the historical tale. And I kept thinking about it days afterwards because it just like there's something about it there's something about the story that just grabs you and holds on. So
I just
What
got
time
an
period?
ad for it, and it's a gorgeous cover, and it's 1920s.
1920s. Okay.
1934, I think.
Oh,
Is
well, okay.
Well, they go into Hollywood, and it's no, but it was just it's I would absolutely recommend picking it up, even if you are a romance reader. There's a little bit of romance. There's a very lovely man. Obviously, Lola has romance in her life, and then in the contemporary time, there's a very lovely man who looks after our heroine and is supportive and wonderful and like so you'll get all your good feels, but the crux of the story is the back and forth between the women and her finding out the story. So highly recommend. Go right now and then come right back. Well, the next book that comes out this week is Leslie Vollard's book, and it's The Monk and the Maiden. And I've been writing it as The Monk and the Maid since it came out, so I had to force myself to remember to put the N on the end. So it's The Monk and the Maiden, and it's 4 in the De Vere series. Can you tell us about this one?
Sure. So this is sort of the final sibling in the De Vere's series. So we've gotten her 2 older sisters, her older brother, and now Iselda is the youngest. She's also a very quiet type. She gets a little tongue-tied around people, especially when she feels like she's under pressure. and she is she's considered herself an old maid at this point. She's had a bunch of suitors. She can't bring herself to talk to them, and like they've all gone away and been, not been haven't particularly engaged with her, and so she's feeling really done with love and romance and marriage, and she's just, I'm going to do my own thing. She is very interested in healing and
cool.
in particularly in working with women and midwifery, and she's really, like, she's obsessed with Hildegard of Bingen, who is a medieval polymath. Amazing. Look her up if you don't know who she is. But she, one of the many things that she did was write about remedies and health. And so our heroine is reciting Hildegard throughout the book. She meets this man who comes to town, who is working with the Hospitallers to establish a hospital, which at that time was really more of an inn for pilgrims going on pilgrimage to, but also had a healing component. So caring for the sick and the poor was a piece of it. And he's a very accomplished healer. And they have diametrically opposed viewpoints on how to heal people. And so there is friction from the start. He doesn't believe in her ginger cakes, and she thinks he bleeds people too much, and
probably does. I think I'm with her on that.
They're in conflict from the start. But there's also this spark between them. And so he wants to take vows and go all the way to become an official sort of monk or hospitaller knight who takes a vow of chastity, among other things. And his family is 100% opposed.
I would think she is too by the end of the book.
Oh yeah, how the monks too.
Work with.
Yeah.
So his family, he's the oldest son of an earl, and his family has been paying off the Hospitallers not to let him take vows. So his family orchestrates, like, locking her and him together in the cellar of the castle.
Aww.
So there we've got a forced proximity. Yeah, I know. But everybody around them sees this wonderful chemistry between them, and they are just completely oblivious to it. But of course, over the course of the night, things happen and feelings are confessed. But in the morning, she gets very upset because she feels like now, like, because she's been ruined, that she's forcing him into marriage, and she doesn't want to be the reason that he has to give up on his dream, and his career and so on. So she takes some convincing at that point to come around. And so, they eventually get married, and then I don't want to tell the whole book, but he's also got some hangups. He's got some really big anxieties about childbirth and childbirth because of previous experience. And so this is a real anxiety for him going into the marriage, and that this becomes a point of tension for them in the latter part of the story. But they are two lovable nerds who have both, like, sworn off romance, and it's really a lot of fun to bring them together and watch them bloom.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've had a little bit of a defrocking kink thing since Colleen McCullough, and Father de Bricassar and Meg. So ruining a monk seems like a really good idea, even if it's just a potential monk, you know.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of two happy little nerves. And if she can stop him from bleeding people, so much the better, or at least so much the better. So there's lots of good stuff there.
And I'll bet their ginger cakes are absolutely magical.
Oh yes, yes. He finally tries some and he agrees.
And it's perfect, right? Awesome. Well, the last book that comes out this week is Katherine with not a Y, but with the last name Y, Katherine Lyons' book. And it is Rules for a Fake Fiancé. And it is book 1 in the Rogue's Gambit series. Another book 1 this week. So can you tell us about this one? And I'm assuming for Fake Fiancé that we have a fake relationship thing, which I love.
Yes, we do. How'd you guess?
Well, you know, it's like right there on the tip of my tongue. So
it's one of those books. So I really wanted to explore humor. I like funny books. And so I want to be a funny writer. So it's tiny little situations that they say, okay, this will solve it. And then it keeps spiraling out. My heroine knows she has to get out of the country to London to meet men. Our hero needs a fake fiance for other reasons. And he says, no problem. I will bring you out. You know, I've got a friend who will teach you how to be a lady, because they're both scientifically oriented. But she's like, I can't just show up. I don't know anything. And he's like, no problem. I have someone. Well, so it just keeps spiraling larger and larger out of control, because the way to become popular, of course, is to put out a cool persona. And so I will give away one joke. She is the mysterious cricket princess from far away. And they have specialty clothing for her. And I mean, it just keeps every couple chapters, it takes another step out of control, until at the very end, he has to realize that he needs to be equally ridiculous and to get her to believe that he loves her. And so I envision the book as one of those spirals getting bigger and bigger. And it was just so much fun to write. And it's like you said, it's the first of 3 books. It's the Rogue's Gambit. So each hero is a rogue in one way or another. And this hero needs a fake fiance because he's pulling one over on his grandfather. But joke's on him, because he does end up falling in love and getting married.
I didn't see that coming personally, but
not at all. And then each of the heroes, they're related by the people they meet in London, but each of these heroes is not, not completely wholesome.
Like a little bit of a bad guy, just a smidge, not really bad, just a smidge.
Just a little bit of a rogue. And book 2, it's not his fault. He's born on the wrong side of the blanket. So, as a bastard, he's gotta get by somehow. So
I love that. I didn't mean to be a rogue. It's not my fault.
Exactly. And truly, I really want to be a funny writer. So I think I did it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, there's like something really lovely about humor in books, especially when your head is not necessarily in a fun place. It's I love that as a relief.
Escape.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been wondering if there is a subgenre for rom-com, like historical romance comedy, because that's how I feel my books are as well, Katherine. It's like I want to write a lighthearted, funny book.
We are creating that genre, right?
Let's do it.
Historical rom-com.
Like I think there are plenty of readers for it, because there's something about that like there's Regency that is serious, but then there's also the Regency that is that little bit of playfulness, that has that little bit of, it was one of the things that I think made Bridgerton delicious. Yeah. It's that, icing on the cupcake, fluffy, strawberry flavored, it's just the light, lovely bits and pieces. So I think there are readers for it.
My
Clarence.
book does get silly at points. Hopefully not too silly, but it is definitely a rom-com. Regency.
Yeah, but silly is good. And that old lady who swallowed the fly thing, where it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, that's classic. There's a reason that we still sing that song. That idea of just spiraling and spiraling and spiraling, and you can see it coming, but you can't stop it because you know it's just gonna take the next step.
Yay.
So I'm all in for historical region or historical rom-com. We can totally do that.
Yay.
So we have just a couple minutes left of time, and somebody had posted in the Dragonblade author loop not that long ago about what do you do when you run out of names? And I know that we're lots of book ones this week, but a lot of you have a lot of books in your backlist. And Eliana, you had a really interesting heroine name. So I was wondering, how do you come up with the names for your characters? Where do you get them first? Do you get the character first, and then halfway through figure out what you're going to call them? How do you pair your names together? Do you have a sense of do you have a process for how you guys do that?
I have a little bit of a process, but I will say that after, because this is my 30th or so book coming out, it is getting to be what names am I going to choose, right? So yeah, Boudica was pretty unique. All the names in this series were based on famous warriors or women that have led in battle. So Boudica, Joan, sorry, the names, I just have to...
That's the other thing, we always forget.
Yeah. Artemisia and Zenobia.
Whoa.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
See,
And
you
so
have a theme behind your name. I
Yes.
go
Yeah.
to fantasynamegenerator.com,
Nice.
in ethnicity, and just keep scrolling, keep going, until I find one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had for this one, it was super specific because I wanted the father to be really eccentric. And he's like, no, we're going to name our children so they can be powerful women. And so this series in particular, it's funny you asked that question about names. It was very, very intentional that the women had very unique names, and the men had more plain names, just Wes, Sam, James, Chris. They were supposed to be just the kind of typical names.
Yeah, that's extra lovely when the names are doing some extra work, when they're describing characters too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I have two ways that I do it. One is I find out when they were born, and I go and I look up popular names from those years.
Nice.
So I can find those, and obviously look in Scotland for my Scottish people and in England for my London girls. And the other thing that I'll do is when I'm out doing book signings and things, I always have a tablet because I'm talking with people and they'll tell me what their name is, and then I'll forget it as we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to write it down to make sure I spelled it correctly before I sign the book. So I have a book of everybody's name. So when I need
fantastic.
When I need a character's name, I can just pull that book out and come down and find somebody that fits. So
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, my names came from a poem for the girls at any rate. The Carenza, Ale, and Iselda. It's a medieval troubadour poem. They think it was written by a woman. Exciting.
Oh, cool.
And it's about why you shouldn't get married. Why it's a terrible idea.
Nice.
I mean,
That fits in. Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, cool.
I feel like our heroines would get along, Leslie. Both of our women are no, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, ladies, it was a treat to talk to you today. I really appreciate you taking the time. And Eliana, I'm glad we had a chance to catch up after we missed the previous week. So
Thanks for having me.
So,
Yeah.
I'm going to do
Thank
my
you.
spiel, which is the same thing I do every week, but it's true every week. You want to get your Dragonblade books on pre-order or release. They're the best deal then. If you don't get them then, you can always read in Kindle Unlimited. So, ladies, thanks again for taking the time to talk to us. I'll make sure I pop the links for the books, all the books, including Katherine's book, in the comments, so you can grab them if you haven't gotten them already.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.